Welcome to Both Sides of the Coin. This is the sports talk show where the facts do matter and political correctness, as always, does not. We're going to get into some heated discussions today. We've gotten into some heated discussions about some of these topics already off the show, but at the end of the day, we'll always be able to shake hands and stay friends. JB, my man, how are you doing tonight? I can't hear you. You are muted.
I said, "What's going on? Another Wednesday big show. Your camera's moving all around."
I'm not moving around. You just muted yourself.
I don't know.
Oh, I do know. I do know.
So what's
What?
happening in the world of taxes?
Uh, living the dream. Living the dream. It's busy season. Getting my crap together. Um, I'll be working after this, so that's where I'm at.
Nice.
What's going on in the life of the program over there?
A lot of stuff. A lot of good things happening.
Yeah.
We'll talk about them at another time, but lots of good stuff.
All right. Well, let's get right to it. There's a topic that's really been bothering me. I mean, I know you and I chatted about it for a while. It's been almost a week since it's happened, but as most of you know, Michigan head coach Juwan Howard got into a physical altercation with the Wisconsin Badgers coach. And I thought this would be a great topic to discuss on here because, yes, I know, right? This is my CPA face, right? I'm all professional tonight. In any event, I thought this was a great topic to talk about because, I don't know if any of you guys know who Jason Whitlock is. He is someone that I follow. He's a former NFL player, and he's the one that really brought up this point that if the roles were reversed, right? If the Wisconsin coach was the one that got in Howard's face and did the whole grab, punch, whatever, would he have been fired the next day? And the only reason Howard wasn't fired is because he is a social justice warrior and a minority. And
Wow, I disagree already.
that's what Jason said.
Jason doesn't know what he's talking about.
Oh,
The reason he didn't get fired is because he
no,
is
no,
a
no, 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 no,
Michigan.
no. No, you're not listening to what I'm saying. If the roles were reversed,
Right.
that the Wisconsin coach, I don't know his name, if he was the one that swung,
Right.
he would have been fired on the spot.
Probably.
Right. And I agree.
Probably.
And the fact that I don't disagree with you that there is a alumni, thing going on here too. But yet again, my whole point is there is this myth of white privilege that goes around, and I think that there is a significant what's the word I'm looking for? Disingenu disingenu I can't even say the word. You get my point though, that there is a certain falsehood about this. And the main thing is that white guy gets fired, African American doesn't. So I just wanted to talk about how I think that that's a perfect example of a narrative, that we talk about that disproves itself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it holds to every situation because in this situation, you know, Juwan Howard is a Michigan alum. He was part of the Fab Five, has roots there.
He also has a
You know,
lot of history, though, of crossing the line. This isn't his first incident.
no, of course not. I'm not saying that he doesn't have an issue. He needs to figure that out, especially being a college coach. Being a college coach, you have different responsibilities as coaching at the pro level.
Being a
A
coach,
lot.
period.
It's different when it's pro athletes compared to college. In college, until they start getting a salary, it's not the same. So you look at that, and I say that he has to really figure out how he can be a leader of young men and showing them how to act.
I don't care about any of that crap. I think the whole point is that um, I agree totally with what Jason said, that you can say that his status is a factor in it, and it probably is, but I think he
Oh, it
cowtails.
most definitely is.
I still think it's a major factor that he cowtails to the social justice warriors, the mob left, and he is a social justice warrior. And if he was not those things, like the Wisconsin coach, would have gotten fired on the spot. And I just think that I mean, this is a show about political correctness, right? This is a show that talks about these controversial type of topics. And I just think that nobody's talked about how that played a role in it at all. And it did. There's not a doubt in my mind that it did.
I disagree. I don't think that had anything to do with it.
I think it had a significant.
I think had it been, Ed Cooley in Providence, he'd have been fired. He just different.
I don't think that's a good example, and I don't think it holds a whole lot of weight that just because he's an alumni. This is pretty much his second big incident, third semi big incident, and it's. I mean, I think it definitely played a role. I think it definitely played a role, especially in the media. The media, I mean, if it was the other way around, the media we would still be talking about it today. I mean, I just, yet again, my point is, if the white coach did this, he would have been fired on the spot. He would never be hired again. Howard did it, not fired, still coaching.
I think it comes down to money. Really, what it comes down to, Juwan Howard makes some money. He's an alum. I think, Wisconsin, you get another good coach. You don't have Juwan Howard to come coach you.
I just think that you are proving my point.
I completely disagree.
I think you're proving the point.
Comes down to money.
Right. Exactly. It comes down to one thing and one thing only. Money. Yet, right. Consistently, we get race interjected over and over and over again. And ultimately, it is money, it is butts in the seats that is the overriding factor. I agree with you, is what I'm saying. I'm just saying that this is what happens in other situations, and people try to inject their opinion in those situations, like NFL coaching, when it's not the same thing.
So we've had the NFL coaching debate, and 35% of assistant coaches are minority.
Stop bringing that up. You've already proven that point is totally irrelevant. Unequal outcome does not mean unequal opportunity. We've already established that. And if you think that unequal outcome means there's unequal opportunity, then that's a whole other discussion. But if you truly believe and agree with me that unequal outcome does not mean unequal opportunity, then those statistics, that is an irrelevant argument. Because you're essentially saying that the outcome is unequal. That argument that you're right. So that means unequal opportunity. So essentially you think that you have to have equal opportunity to prove you have to have equal outcome to prove that there's equal opportunity.
No, because again, I'm not looking for anything to be equal. I'm looking for.
But you are. That's the argument that you're making.
No. I'm saying you could use that as a basis for it.
No. Right. You're using that as a basis for the argument. It's either unequal opportunity means
it doesn't have to be wholehearted one way or the other. You could take a little bit of both.
Well, no, you're saying that based off of these statistics, there is an unequal outcome. Therefore, it is a factor.
It definitely is a factor.
Right. So unequal outcome means unequal opportunity. That's what you're saying.
It's proven. But that's
not proven.
That's certainly is.
Yet again, we're going to go with you believe unequal outcome means unequal opportunity.
I believe there's something wrong with the situation. 35% of
You
the
keep
coaches are
right. You
minorities.
keep saying unequal outcome means unequal opportunity. That's what you keep using as your basis. Is this unequal outcome means that there's unequal opportunity, and that is the weakest argument of all time.
It's certainly not.
It certainly is.
No,
Yeah,
not at all.
because there's unequal outcome in NFL players, so that must mean unequal outcome, unequal opportunity. I don't understand why you only get to apply your argument to your situation, and when you try to apply it across the board, you can't do that. Only this situation is where you apply it. Every other one doesn't matter, but this one it does.
Whatever. I'm done with this topic because I know I'm right.
Well,
When you know you're right, sometimes you just have to move on because we can talk about this for hours and you're not going to see my point, which is scary.
I see your point, but you're not conceding that what you're saying. You're just saying that's not what you're talking in circles. You're saying that 35% of coaches are African American. Therefore, the outcome in head coaches creates a disparity, meaning the outcome proves that there's unequal opportunity. Because your issue is there's unequal opportunity, right?
I just don't see how the numbers make sense.
No. Is your issue that there's unequal opportunity in NFL coaching hiring? Yes or no?
Of course it is.
Okay. And your foundation for that is
basic
the
math.
Outcome is unequal.
The system is flawed. That's the problem.
No, you're saying that the outcome is not equal.
That's one of the issues, yes.
Right. So therefore, unequal outcome means unequal opportunity. You're basing your unequal opportunity argument
That's the
whole basis that you're saying. That's literally the whole basis.
No, absolutely not.
You cited one statistic and keep saying 35% over and over and over again. That's it. That's it.
Listen, how do you have 35%
again
and equate
you
to
keep going
coaches,
to this.
You
keep going to this argument.
That's not even 10%.
You keep going to this argument. And all I keep saying is unequal outcome does not mean unequal opportunity. You need to provide more than just a statistic.
Math is key, as a CPA would know.
No, because unequal outcome does not prove unequal opportunity. It doesn't. If it did, then the NFL players would be unequal opportunity because there's 70% African American football players. That proves that unequal outcome does not mean unequal opportunity.
No, because you get cut when you go to training camp, so you have to actually make the team.
Totally irrelevant.
Completely different situation.
It's not a different situation at all. It's the same thing.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. The outcome does not mean yes.
Completely different situation.
It's not different at all. It proves the formula.
Completely different.
It proves the formula. True or false? 70% of NFL players are African American. True or false?
About that, yes.
Okay. True or false? There is no opportunity issue in the NFL. True or false?
As far as what? Players, coaches?
White players have the same opportunity as African American players.
Of course. Physical skill.
Right. Exactly. So, therefore, unequal outcome, meaning 70% African American, does not mean unequal opportunity.
Not for players, no. It's a completely different situation.
It's not different. It's not different. It
is
not different. There is no situation where unequal outcome proves that there is unequal opportunity. There is no situation. And I'm not saying that you're right or wrong. I have never said that. You always ascribe my opinion is that I feel
I'm not taking your opinion. I'm
saying your argument is extreme. No, your argument is extremely flawed because you are basing the outcome, meaning that proves your point that there's unequal opportunity. And I'm saying to you that's an extremely weak argument because I just gave you one case that proves unequal outcome does not mean unequal opportunity.
It doesn't happen in every situation.
It doesn't happen ever because unequal outcome does not mean unequal opportunity. Period. End of story. You need to provide more facts than the outcome is disproportionate. Therefore, opportunity is also disproportionate.
That's one part of it. You keep going to that, but also you have the Rooney Rule.
That's the only thing that you keep bringing up. You brought nothing other substantive to the argument.
No, I brought everything substantial to the argument.
What else?
You have the Rooney Rule, which sets up coaches that they're not going to hire anyway just because they have to fill a quota. It's a backwards rule. Listen, the whole system's flawed. You could disagree. You could come up with any reason you want. It's a flawed
system. Need to have a better argument. Unequal outcome does not mean unequal opportunity. It doesn't.
The facts are there's 2 African-American coaches out of 32. When 70% of the league
unequal outcome does not mean unequal opportunity.
And
I'm sorry, it's a weak argument. You need to provide more than that. It's a weak argument.
It absolutely is not. Math is
math. It is. Okay, so then math is math. Players, there's an unequal opportunity for white players too.
No, there's not.
Why?
Players is a completely different thing.
Why?
Why? Because that relies on physical skill. You're coming from a pool of how many different guys. You get cut if you're not.
How is this any different from NFL coaching?
So how is it that a player wouldn't have an equal opportunity in training camp?
Because 70%, the outcome, 70% are not.
What does that have to do with anything?
Exactly. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. It has nothing.
With players, what is that?
With any situation.
No.
Yes. It's not different. No. It's the same illogically flawed argument. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It is. It's the same thing.
Definitely
you just feel that one way it's not and one way it is. So therefore, you're right in one situation and wrong in the other. No, you're wrong in both situations. And it doesn't mean that there is unequal opportunity in coaching hiring or not. I'm not saying that there is. All I'm saying is that your foundation is the outcome is unequal, therefore the opportunity is. You need to provide more substantive arguments to that. Yeah, it's total BS.
Yeah, it's a waste of everybody's time.
Again, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
It does, though, because if you're bringing in people that are African American just to interview, so you met your quota.
Okay.
Right. So when would an African American person ever be taken seriously for the job when they're just the quota fillers?
Okay, so then get rid of the rule, and then what? I don't see how having the rule or not having the rule changes any substantive part of our argument.
Okay. You're not getting it. We're just going to go on about this for hours. I don't have time. Next.
Because you're not providing any substantive argument to it. You just keep saying unequal outcome.
You need to look at basic psychology. If I'm running a business and I have to have 2 African Americans come in, so I met my quota.
I agree with you. The Rooney Rule is trash. I agree with you.
Right.
Okay. So next point.
So that's
how does that prove disproportionate opportunity?
Anyway, moving along. I'm done with this topic.
Because you have no argument for it.
I'm 100.
You have none. Your argument is consistently unequal outcome. That's it. That's all you have. No. That's all you said. Give me something else.
I've given you many things. We're moving on or we're done. That's it. I got nothing more to say on this topic. It's a bogus topic because it's bull.
I agree with you. Your argument is bull. It's bad.
No.
It's bad. It is.
No, it's really not. It's just sad. But it's okay. We're in the 20th. We're in the 21st century. We get excited because a woman calls a baseball game. Who cares? It's stupid.
I agree with you.
But it comes down to opportunity. People have to be interested in it. Then they have to apply themselves, and then they have to hope they get hired. And you can't tell me that people have the same opportunities. Women don't have the same opportunities in sports that men do.
I probably agree with that statement, but again, I don't think that has anything to do with the outcome, though. I don't think the outcome proves that they have unequal opportunity. I think they have unequal opportunity because they don't have the experience. They still need to get their foot in the door to get the experience. But I also think they're drawing from a much more limited pool because they don't have any experience at all.
Right.
So it's when you have a smaller pool, you're obviously it's how do I say this the right way? You have a smaller pool that are interested in trying to get their foot in the door. And the hardest thing to do is to get your foot into the door. Once they get their foot into the door, then you start getting experience. Once you get experience, you're proving your worth, you move up the ladder, right? So, again, what I'm saying is the outcome is not saying that is the sole reason that there is unequal opportunity. The unequal opportunity is the fact that A, small pool, because there's not as many women that are interested in trying to do this. B, they don't have experience. They just don't. And C, you can also add in the fact that they're, I guess it's really mostly just A and B. But my point is that I didn't mention once that the outcome is proving that there's no opportunity.
It's again, it's numbers. How many assistant football coaches are women? If there were 35% women that were assistant coaches and they had one head coaching job, I would say there's an issue. Math is math. And if you go and rewind to the words you just said, got to get experience to prove yourself. Exactly what you just said. You have to have opportunity.
Right. So I agree with you, but the outcome does not prove that there is no opportunity.
What's the opportunity then?
We have one woman that has already been hired, but again, the pool is very small right now. There is not a lot of women that are interested in trying to be NFL coaches. And on top of that, there's not a lot of women that are qualified to be because they don't have any experience at all in this field.
Okay.
There's no, you can make the argument in the WNBA, you would have women that are coaching that can transfer over to the men's side because they have experience in doing this. But there's no women's football league. That's a big issue. How are you going to get any relevant experience?
Well, there are women football leagues. There's just a lot smaller.
There's nothing comparative.
Nothing compared to the WNBA, no. But there are women leagues.
Yeah, but there's nothing comparative. Women's soccer, you can have a female soccer coach be a men's soccer coach. Like, you can get that experience. So I think the NFL is unique in that situation because there is no comparative league.
Right.
In any event. Let's move on to...
I think you proved my point this evening, so another victory.
You've proved that, yet again, unequal outcome does not mean unequal opportunity. It does not. Period.
It certainly does.
It does not.
It does. When the system is stacked against you and you don't ever get opportunity, there's an issue.
But that unequal outcome does not mean that there is unequal opportunity. It doesn't.
Okay. Listen, if that puts you to bed at night, and that helps
you. It's not that it puts me to bed at night. It's just a fact. The outcome does not mean the opportunity is wrong. The opportunity can be wrong or right. Or the opportunity can be there or not there. The outcome does not dictate. Point in case is the player argument. The outcome is 70% of African Americans are NFL athletes.
No. You can't go with that. You can't go with that.
Why?
That's a completely different argument.
It is not different at all. They are more qualified. That's why the outcome is disproportionate. And I'm saying to you, The
So
argument.
what's the qualifications for being a head coach in the NFL?
Okay, so yet again, this is a more substantive argument. That's what I'm trying to tell you, is that if you want to make the argument that there are qualified coaches that are not getting hired, and here's one that this coach got hired over this coach. This coach was African American, this one was white. The African American coach was more qualified and didn't get hired. The white coach was less qualified and did get hired. That's a substantive argument. But you can't just make a blanket statement and say outcome is different, therefore opportunity is different. That's what you keep saying. You have not brought any direct case of this coach was hired over this coach. No, you keep doing this. The outcome is irrelevant.
No.
Yes, it is.
The outcome's not irrelevant. When you have a rule, when you have a rule that you have to fill a quota of African American people that are interviewed before you even start, so you're just picking names, and as Dom said before, the guy at Detroit started canceling his interviews because he just knew they were sham interviews. That's the point. There is no opportunity. So the outcome dictates it before you even start.
No, the outcome is before the opportunity. I'm sorry, the opportunity is before the outcome. The outcome is irrelevant, but that doesn't mean that the outcome proves it. That doesn't mean that. The outcome of NFL players, 70% are African American. 70% are African American.
Right.
The outcome is 70% are African American. There is equal opportunity across the board. Therefore, the outcome does not mean there is unequal opportunity. Period. I have not said that you are wrong in saying that there is disproportionate opportunity in head coaching hires in the NFL. I've never said that once. All I've said to you is that your argument of the outcome proves that there is unequal opportunity is an extremely flawed and weak argument, because there are multiple situations that prove that the outcome does not dictate opportunity.
No.
Yes, because your argument, okay, here's my counter argument. Counter argument is white coaches are more qualified.
Wait, I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
White coaches are more qualified.
What makes someone more qualified?
What makes the outcome prove that the opportunity is different? I've given you a case that proves it.
Because if the Giants wanted to sit me down and interview me for the head coaching job, they don't have to worry that they interviewed 4 other 5'11", 6-foot white guys. They don't have to worry about that. But they got to make sure that they interview at least 2 African Americans to cover the Rooney Rule. So once you have that in place,
okay, so get rid of the Rooney Rule. Okay, Rooney Rule's gone. Rooney Rule's irrelevant. Okay, so Rooney Rule's gone.
But it's not irrelevant because that's the system now.
Okay, so you're saying the Rooney Rule proves that there's unequal opportunity.
The Rooney Rule helps bring unequal opportunity at this point. We're beyond where we need that at this point.
So then
it was important when it first came into effect because African Americans weren't even getting interviewed. Now we're at the point where teams actually will call and interview people.
I agree with you. I actually think the argument of owners is a much stronger argument. Much stronger argument, because there's not one African American owner. I think that's a much stronger argument. My point is that you need to have a case. If you want to make an actual effective argument, okay, you need to say Brian Flores didn't get hired. What's his name? Did get hired. Brian Flores was more qualified because he did this, this, and this. The other head coach was less qualified. So it proves this is a prime example of a more qualified African-American coach didn't get hired and a less qualified white coach did get hired. That is substantive argument. And you have provided none of that. You just keep focusing on the outcome. And I keep saying to you, that is a weak argument. You're not doing your cause justice. It is a weak argument.
Not disagreeing with you on that, but we both know that there are qualified individuals that are African American that are
so bring that to the table. That's what I keep telling you. Bring it to the table.
We're past the
enemy was not a qualified coach. I can't believe he kept his OC job in KC after everything that came out. He's not an example. And Flores shot himself in the foot, and I think he's proven he's a difficult coach to deal with.
Flores did do that with, he would have gotten the Houston job.
He would have gotten the job. Exactly. He shot himself in the foot. He cried like a little baby because he didn't get the job that he wanted. Oh, I think owners definitely can. Again, and this is part of the issue. I'm not making the argument that there is not discrimination in head coaching hiring. I'm not saying there is or isn't. I'm just saying you need to provide more than just saying the outcome proves there's no opportunity, because that is not an argument. There are several cases where the outcome is disproportionate and the opportunity is not. Outcome does not equal opportunity. It doesn't. Period. End of story. The most qualified NFL players are playing because it just so happens that there are more athletically gifted African Americans that are playing in the NFL than white guys. Period. I don't think that's racist. I think that's fact. I just think it's fact.
Right.
So that proves that the outcome does not mean that there's unequal opportunity. And there are multiple cases in multiple sports that show this. So what I'm just honing back to is you need to provide substantive evidence. That is a much stronger argument than just saying, well, 35% of assistant coaches are African American. Therefore, there should be 10 head coaches. There's not racism. No, that's a terrible argument. You are doing a total disservice to your argument by basing it off of that. Total disservice.
Basic math, though, it's simple.
It's not.
You're going to tell me
basic math is 70% of African Americans are playing in the NFL right now as players. Basic math.
You're going to tell me that the coaches that we see recycled hire after hire are better than 35% of the assistant coaches in the NFL.
Again, give a specific case. Your argument is flawed. It is weak. It is circumstantial and weak. It proves nothing.
The math is the proof.
The math proves nothing.
The math is black and white. It's there.
It's not. The math proves nothing. Yet again, I keep saying to you.
How can you be a CPA and say the math proves nothing? That kills me.
Because the math doesn't prove it in how many players there are. Why doesn't it prove it with the players?
It's again, in players, you have to earn your spot on the roster. It's not
as a coach, you have to earn your spot.
No, it's completely different. There's no training. There's no training camp for coaches. You don't fight for your job before the season starts.
What are you talking about? Every coach, I feel like every coach is on the hot seat. They're all getting fired. If they don't prove themselves, they get fired. And Urban Meyer got fired in his first season.
There's no backup there. There's no backup head coach. There's not 4 guys on the roster, that are going to be that's the head coach, 2, head coach 3 on the depth chart.
What does that have to do with anything?
There's a different process.
I agree with you. There's a different process. I agree. But that doesn't mean that the outcome proves that there's disproportionate opportunity. You need more examples. And it should be super easy because you should be able to say there's only a small portion. So here's the people that didn't get hired. Here's the less qualified person. Here's the more qualified person. But you're making a lazy argument. Go do the research. Go find examples of here's a white coach that's less qualified. Here's an African American coach that's more qualified. White coach got hired. That's a legit argument. That's a legit one. Just making a blanket statement. The numbers prove it. No, they don't. The numbers are meaningless.
You get a guy like Joe Judge, who was a special teams coach.
Thank you. Yes.
Gets a head coach job with the New York Giants, one of the, oldest franchises. You're going to tell me that 35% assistant coaches that are African American, there wasn't one that was more qualified than Joe Judge?
I don't know. Who else interviewed?
I don't know who interviewed for the Giants when they hired Judge, but They decide who interviews.
Who
So
was the rooting rule hires on those? Go and find out, because that's a good argument. That's a much better argument than the numbers say this. That's a much better argument. I agree with you. I think he was immensely unqualified, and I think his results proved that he was. So do yourself in the argument a favor and go and find out who he was hired over. That's a strong argument. I think you're finally understanding what I'm trying to tell you.
but no, because you have the Rooney Rule. It's bogus. The whole interview process. That's what you're not getting.
I agree with you. That's my point. Is that find out who were the hires, and those two guys, if they're more qualified than Joe Judge, and the results prove that Joe Judge was clearly incompetent, that's direct evidence of it. That's a fantastic argument. That is way stronger, way more.
You're more qualified than Joe Judge was. What does that mean? He wasn't good.
That's hindsight is 2020, right? Because I didn't interview. I'm saying at the time of the interview, who else was hired, and you can substantively look at, they were more qualified. That is a phenomenally strong argument. Much better than this number crap.
Life is based off numbers. As a CPA, you want to know that.
Yeah, but I just proved to you that numbers don't mean anything.
Numbers
Multiple
do mean
times.
things.
No. Outcome does not mean opportunity.
I'm done with this topic. We were back when we started. I've already won the argument 7 times.
You haven't
let's
won
argue
the
with something else.
It's a lazy argument.
Let's argue about more stuff.
Let's end on the MLB discussion. So it's going to be boring because we agree on this one. You know, I saw an interesting quote. I think it was Jeff Passan that said it. You could hire 1,200 new players, and the level of the game, the quality of the game would drop significantly. So much so that it might even be unwatchable, right? Watching minor league players and kids wouldn't be good. You could hire 30 new owners, and not only would the league not change, it might even get a little bit better. And I think it's spot on. I think, yet again, I'm not putting 100% blame on the owners here. I'm going to put it at like 85%. I'm going to put
we're close.
I'm going to put about 15% on the players because the players put themselves in this corner, right? They negotiated probably the worst CBA of any sport ever in 2016. They gave the owners 400 miles, right? And backed themselves into this tiny corner. And now they put themselves in this corner and they're like, well, we can't stay in this corner, so we have to break out of it. So now they're saying to the owners, essentially, you have to give us everything back in one fell swoop. And if you don't, we're not playing. And it's like, it's not going to happen. It's unrealistic to happen. You lost the last CBA. These have consequences, right? And when you have these negotiations and these agreements, you have to understand that you may lose sometimes, and you can't act like a spoiled brat when you lose. Okay, so what that means is you need to focus on your 1 or 2 issues and make sure you win those. And everything else, if you take a small loss on, you do and you move forward. But whatever you do, okay, you don't let this happen, or at least you come to the table and say, this is where we're at. These are the 2 issues we're concentrated on. You have to meet us there. We'll meet you almost everywhere else. Okay? And if you were open and honest about that and put it out there and said, this is where you are, you would look reasonable. And then I would say it's all on the owners if they don't agree with you, right? So I still think the players have some blame in this. I do. But I think the owners are being very, how do I say this? Why don't you just not lock them out? Just not lock them out.
I mean, couldn't we just
play.
go with the old contract right now until we figure something out and play baseball,
Right.
and everybody make money.
Right.
Well, why
exactly.
would locking them out benefit the owners?
No, benefit anybody. It doesn't benefit anybody. Who does it benefit?
Right now, I'm saying
anybody. It benefits only the owners.
For it to be a lockout, the owners have to decide to lock them out. It's not the players that are saying lock us out. So how does it
players
benefit?
Are not striking. The owners have locked them out.
So how is, as an owner, saying I don't want to make any more money right now, I'm going to shut the business down while we negotiate, when you could just go under the last agreement until it's done?
Right.
So I don't get it. I don't see why it's a beneficial thing. I mean, I did
It's
read,
a negotiation tactic, and it blew up in their face.
But, baseball, I was saying this the other day, and I've said this for a couple of years. Baseball doesn't know how to market themselves. Rob Manfred's got to be the worst commissioner. The worst commissioner of all time.
Bud Selig and Rob Manfred. I mean, they are literally two of the worst commissioners of all time. And Roger Goodell is pretty close to being right up there. I disagree with you. I do think there's a lot of problems. I think there's a competitive balance problem. I think that there's no reason, there should not be a perverse incentive for two things. Number one, there should not be an incentive for teams to say, we're going to keep one of our best young players off of our roster, because the difference of bringing him up in the beginning of the season and winning 5 more games versus bringing him in the middle of the season and losing those 5 games is small. But the fact that we get an extra year of control over him by losing those 5 games is huge. So we're going to keep him in the minors because that's our incentive. That's wrong.
Exactly.
That is terrible. That needs to go away. Period.
It's horrible.
That's not a millionaire, billionaire problem. That's a league problem, and that needs to get fixed immediately. There's also a major disparity between you really have two classes in Major League Baseball. You have the ultra rich, right? The top tier players, and you have everybody else. And by everybody else, I mean you have middle tier players getting paid almost nothing, right? So you have guys that were under control for a long time. They're 26, 27. They're middle tier players, right? They're not superstars. They're middle of the road players. Well, now they can't get a contract because their most valuable years were used getting paid nothing, right? Because they have their under team control. Then they're hitting free agency for the first time when they should get paid, and they're not getting paid anything because
nothing.
They get paid nothing because they're saying, oh, well, replacement level player, we can go get this 22-year-old, bring him up. He's going to be a middle tier player, and we're going to pay him nothing, and he's going to provide almost the same benefit that you are at 28, 29. So they use up these players for their young years, and they get past, they're at the end of their prime, and they don't pay them. So the middle guys are all right. Those are two big problems that definitely need to be addressed. And look, the teams hold all the cards. The fact that you have MLB teams controlling players until they're almost 30 is ridiculous. It's utterly there's no other league that's set up that way.
Disgusting.
It's utterly ridiculous. I'm trying to read that. Oh, you're talking about Manfred. Yeah, and I'll tell you what. You know what really bugged me? And I watched the conference, and I was thinking this before anybody said it because I've seen people. But I'm watching this. I'm like, this is really bad. This is really bad for the sport. And Manfred comes up laughing and joking and smiling. Ha ha ha. Like, you should be very concerned right now. But they shouldn't be, right? They shouldn't just be, I'm responding to Dom, a 28-year-old player who a team had control over until he was 28 years old, and the team was able to say, well, we manipulated your service time, and then on top of it, we used up all of your profitable years and paid you nothing, and now we're done with you. Bye. That's not right. It's not right.
The whole system's flawed.
Like the NFL is set up better in that regard, right? You get drafted, you have your rookie contract, which is 5 years, right? 4 with an option. And that 5th-year option, you get paid. You get paid on that 5th-year option, right? So you have those 5 years. And then you hit free agency. So you are able to at least get one bite of the apple in your prime in the NFL. And I get it. Your prime is much smaller, but the MLB has set it up so that because of war and replacement level players and all that, your prime is really small. Because who wants to give a 28-year-old player a 5-year contract at $20 million when you can just get a 22-year-old player and pay him nothing?
Yeah, the whole system is backwards. You have teams that don't even try and win, and that never try and win. Then you have
management just sits there and goes, "Well, we're not playing baseball, so what do I care?"
You got Tampa and Oakland that spend nothing and they find ways to win. So obviously it can be done.
And I don't get all it. I know I'm old school in this way. I don't get all of these. We need to speed the game up. Like,
it's baseball. Baseball is baseball.
It's the only game. There's no clock. You sit there on a summer warm day. You go out. You go to the game. When it's over, it's over. Like, I'm okay with tweaking the rules if you want to go to a point system so you don't get 18-inning games, because it's different now where guys get injured and a win is less valuable than going through a week's worth of your bullpen and losing 4 or 5 games in the rest of the week because your bullpen is exhausted to try to win one game. I get that rule. I get the not necessarily like the way it is now, but if you wanted to go to a point system and say after the 9th inning we start with a runner on second, I'm okay with that. But what I'm not okay with is pitch clock. Trying to keep the batter. Why does the game need to be sped up? If you want to say you get 10 pitches in between innings to make commercial breaks less, I'm all for that. I'm all for cutting down the downtime between innings. I'm all for that. You know, like the dreaded double commercial in football, where you'd have a touchdown commercial, kickoff commercial. That was terrible, right? They got rid of that.
I don't know. Honestly,
I think that's the problem with the country. I think that we need to bring back things that increases attention span, not keep feeding into this attention span that gets measured in seconds. I don't think it's necessarily greedy owners.
Oh, it definitely is.
I don't think it's all on. You can't blame the owners for sitting there. You can't blame.
It's 80-20.
Exactly. That's why I said you can't fully blame the owners for saying you gave us the kitchen sink last time, and now you expect us to give you the kitchen sink back. That's not how it works. That's not how negotiation works. You can't expect to get everything back. You can't. That's not reasonable, right?
Never give it up. If you want it, don't ever give it up. That's the way it is.
So that's why I'm saying it's not just to sit here and say it boils down to greedy owners. That's not it. The players messed up. The players screwed up on this big time. I think you're trying to tie a nice, neat bow on the top of the issue and blame it in one area. I don't think that is it. It's not solely the owners. It's just not. It's not.
Well, it's enough of them. Again, 80-20 numbers. You know.
I get that. It's definitely more on them in this case, but it's not solely on them. It's not. It's not. Players have their fair share of blame here. They have their fair share of it. They screwed up that and here's the thing too. If you really screwed up the negotiation this bad last time, why is Tony Clark still the head of the MLPA?
Good question.
Nobody's answered that. And yet again, so let's go over his resume. You want to talk about resumes? Let's go over his. Made one of the worst CBAs of all time last year, and now we're at a strike because he can't articulate what his position is now. No one's talked about that. He's been terrible. So, a good MLBPA president would have done what I told you, right? He would have said, these are our two sticky. He would have said, listen, guys, we got hosed last time. We need to go out there and pick our 2 points. We'll go die on this hill. Right? We will die on the hill of player. We need fair competition. We need it. I agree with that. And I think everybody agrees with fair competition. And B, we need fair pay to the middle tier players, because the service time manipulation and these owners that are in these teams that are using up players' valuable years and then disposing of them and not paying them is not fair. That's 2 hills that they need to die on. The rest of it they can figure out, right? You can give the owners a little whatever. If you went out there if you went to Manfred's conference, right? Manfred went up smiling, looking like a jackass. And you came up after that and said, look at Manfred. We came here, we said, these are the 2 things that we want. They wouldn't budge. They don't want competitive baseball. They don't want it. And they don't want to pay middle tier players the right money. They want to use up players for their valuable years and dispose of them and pay them nothing. They want to manipulate service time so that they can control them for their valuable years and pay them nothing. We don't believe this is fair, and we're going to die on this hill. If he came out and said that, Manfred would look horrible. Everybody would be against the owners, but he didn't do that because he's terrible too. That's what he needed to do.
Yeah, but some people are just not good at their job, and they have them.
He's one of them.
Let's talk about some NFL coaches. Just play it.
Oh, God. It's the hill that you died on and didn't die well.
So when you're right, you're right.
I agree with you. I love being right.
Since I'm usually right, it's just the way it is.
Usually you are. This time you were not.
Anything else going on?
No, I wanted to talk maybe a little bit about Kyrie, and all I'm going to say is...
I think we'll have that in 2 weeks.
That's fine. I'm just going to end with pretty sure I was right and he was right. Mandates were trash. They meant nothing because now all of a sudden, well, COVID's just disappeared because, we're on the verge of World War III, but COVID's disappeared. So
we'll get into that in 2 weeks. We'll have numbers because there'll be the new variant. The numbers will be going up. We'll be back to wear masks. Our 17th booster shot.
I won't be. I haven't worn a mask. I don't even know if the last time I even bought one.
So where can people find you?
Right here.
Nice.
Now, you can find me on my website, Adam Goldstein CPA. Guys, it's tax season. You have tax questions, hit me up. AdamGoldsteinCPA.com. Licensed CPA, over 10 years of experience. JB can tell you, know my crap. So you got questions, reach out. JB, where can we find you?
Sideline Sports every Tuesday night, the NBA Carousel on Mondays, NFL Carousel during the season on Thursdays, the program on Believe, JB_the program on Twitter.
_the program.
DBNA Television, Quantum Star TV, the Inscriber Magazine. I think you've heard enough. I'm good. I'm out of here.
Have a good one, guys. Take care. See you next
in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good.